Right now, I am giving this an estimated rating of...
Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we are going to be doing a 5x5 of workplace romances. Alright, before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what is your favorite workplace romance. As per usual, in order to celebrate Valentine's Day, of course, I had to do a romance-based 5x5. If you're unaware of what my 5x5, it is a series I do on my channel in which I am trying to find 5 5-star reads within a single theme. I haven't succeeded thus far, but I will put a link to my playlist with all my tries in the cards up above. I've done a few different romance tropes now, and one that I thought would be kind of fun because it will allow for a little bit more flexibility is workplace romances. I definitely was a little fast and loose with the term workplace. If the romance between the two main characters starts within their job, it falls into the category. You'll see a little bit more what I mean whenever I start talking about the books. For the layout of this video, I will give you guys a summary of the book I will be reading, followed by a 50% update with an estimated rating, and then a final update with an actual rating. Jumping right on in, the first book I picked up was Getting Schooled by Christina C. Jones. This is the first in her Wright Brothers series that I've been wanting to read for quite some time. This one is following Reese and Jason. Reese is a grad assistant who is TAing her mother's English course, and Jason is a student in said course who, unfortunately for Reese, is very attractive, very intelligent, and a little bit rude. The two of them end up butting heads over one of Jason's papers, and things escalate from there. Hey y'all, so I have hit the halfway point into Getting Schooled, and right out of get-go, the best thing about this book so far is the banter. The banter is phenomenal. As soon as these two characters interact, they are cutthroat, are no holds bar. Their guards are up against the other person, and whilst they are poking and prodding at each other, they're calling each other names. And yet, they're actively checking the other person out, and that is the exact sort of energy I want when it comes to enemies to lovers. So, of course, I am all over it. Along with that though, I adore this sort of, it's like an ongoing joke where at the start of this book, Reese is grading a paper for her mother's course, and she knows it is not a well-written book. That's kind of the whole point, is to see if the students can pick up on the fact that that is not good literature. And Jason is just absolutely demolishing this book in his paper in a very well done manner, though it doesn't perfectly fit with the assignment given. However, Reese loves the commentary going on in it, and even though she has to point out some of the flaws with it not quite matching the assignment, she thinks it's just a fantastic piece. Once Jason finds out about this, it both flatters and annoys him, which makes it so much more fun. Though this doesn't fit the traditional workplace romance, there is still a bit of that taboo element where they're not really supposed to date, in the fact that, you know, she's a TA and he's a student. She shouldn't be crossing that line. Initially, she's also very reserved about this because she thinks he's, you know, maybe 20 whereas she's 26, so maturity level is quite different. Once she realizes he's 28, it's a little bit harder for her to resist. She goes on a little bit of a thought spiral, which was both hilarious and steamy. All of the interactions between these two, the thought spiral that Reese went on there, definitely makes me think that this is going to be nice and spicy. This is going to bring the good shit. Already, both characters have had some depth explored. Reese's father passed a few years prior, and she still has not really dealt with that loss very well. On the opposite side, Jason is a veteran who has returned home. He insists there's nothing wrong, but his family still treats him with kid gloves, and he's trying to get them to not do that so much anymore. There are also plenty of family feels. Obviously, Reese's mom being the professor, she is pretty prevalent in the story. And then on the opposite side, in Jason's perspective, we get to meet his father, who is a lot of fun, and then we meet his two brothers, which makes perfect sense because his two brothers are going to be the focus of the next books in the series. Right now, I am giving this an estimated rating of Right now, I am giving this an estimated rating of 4 stars because I'm really enjoying this, and I definitely am hopeful this goes higher because I have to say, this definitely reminds me of the Winston Brothers series by Penny Reed. It gives me the same feels. It has me over the moon for the characters, for the dynamic between them. I read the first
45% of this book in a single sitting, if that tells you anything.
Hey guys, so I have finished out Getting Schooled, and oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this. I'm so glad I did. I talked about before that the best thing about this book was the banter, and I have to say that stayed true even once they became a couple, which I greatly appreciate because I feel like some authors will utilize it until they become a couple, and then it's just all sweet and wholesome and blah. Give me some fire, give me some teasing, give me this banter. And I think it makes it all the more entertaining that somehow the sexual tension is amped up even after they're a couple. As far as the workplace romance taboo element of this went, it didn't really last for super long after they slept together. Once they had done that, it was like, the person who could probably get us in trouble for this knows what's taking place, so it's all green. Instead though, there's a separate element to the story that does add a little bit of tension and makes things slightly awkward but also adorable. The spice, it was good. 3 chili peppers worth. We did get a bit more depth from both characters as well in the latter half of the story. Specifically for Jason, we actually come to find out that he has a prosthetic leg, but he cannot stand that so many people in his everyday life treat him with kid gloves. He's trying to get past that, and he really appreciates the fact that 𝗖cie never does that to him. On the opposite side, there's some more in 𝗖ße's grief over her father's death that is explained that I'm not going to get into because I think it does have more impact if you don't know. With both of these, I really enjoyed how they were explored, and they just added to creating the well-rounded character. I will admit, I think the one drawback I really had with this book was that any issues that came up between the two as a couple often felt a little too contrived. 𝗖cie would just shut down so quickly and not give Jason any opportunity to respond, but as soon as he did, everything would be resolved really quickly. So it kind of felt unnecessary to drag it out, even if it wasn't that bad compared to other books that did kind of get on my nerves. But I have to say, I really appreciated the emphasis on having an open line of communication between these two. My claw pile for this came down to 4.5 stars. You know, it's a 5 by 5, so I think I'm gonna let myself cheat and I'm gonna give this 5 stars. Yes, 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 we already have one. This is great. Now onto the next book, The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. This one is alternating perspectives between Britta and Wes. Wes owns a fitness app, and though he is doing very well, unfortunately for him, he is unsuccessful in his love life as well as in his family issues. He is feeling really unfulfilled and pretty down on himself, so he decides to take up coaching on the app once more. He is randomly paired with Britta, who, unbeknownst to him, is actually reviewing this app for her job. However, the two of them click almost immediately, and very quickly things escalate from coach and client roles. Hello again. I have also hit the halfway point into The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams, and my lord, must applaud her for how quickly she endeared me to these characters. Britta in particular is just so funny. She's very sweet. She's just filled with so much hope for this dream job. She's so likable, and it's just very easy to root for her. On the opposite side, Wes really intrigued me. I will say he does have a lot of side plots going on, but I think each of them showcase the fact that he has a really big heart and he wants to take care of everybody, sometimes to his own detriment. These two together, though, downright adorable. Though their relationship definitely starts out very much focused on he being the coach, she is the client, they actually become friends pretty quickly. There's just so much chemistry between them, even via emails or messages and texts. So much chemistry that pretty quickly and very easily they start to kind of push the line at flirting. And when they did that, oh, I will say I was squealing, oh my gosh, because again, these two are just so cute. But with that and the workplace romance element of the story, neither of them really wants to push that boundary. Wes is her coach, but also he is the CEO of the company. It would be incredibly unprofessional if he were to hit on or ask out a client. On the opposite side, with Britta, she is writing a review of this app. So if she were to start dating her coach, that's a conflict of interest. And now neither of them really wants to push their friendship because they're coming to rely on the other person. They really enjoy messaging them every day, and it's It's so cute, and I appreciate that the other characters and their lives are starting to take notice of it, and that's like my biggest term right now for this story, is it's so freaking cute. I have to applaud the way Williams has handled Britta's fatness. I really appreciate the fact that she's aware of this. She is still confident in herself and her body, but she also self-aware of the fact that she would like to be healthier. Her focus in doing this fitness app is not about losing weight, it is about being healthy. And I really like the distinction. I appreciate the presentation of body positivity taking place in the story, while at the same time being aware, you know, society sucks and still views people like her in a different light. The conversations around what makes her self-conscious, all of that I just feel has been very well handled. So across the board, I am loving this book. This is one of those where I want to estimate a high rating, but I should not do that. So we're gonna estimate 4 stars. And we are gonna leave it there.
Hey guys, so I have finished out The Fastest Way to Fall, and oh my god, I loved it. It's very shocking because 9 times out of 10, I'm not really a big friends to lovers fan, enemies to lovers all the way. But I have to say, in this case, the author managed to make me care about their friendship a lot, because they were actually really good friends. They were often ending up in these really silly and tropey situations because of their friendship, but at the same time, those would always have me smiling at the book, kicking my feet. But once they started to push the boundaries of that friendship, and especially when they take the jump, spicy, very good. 3 to 4 chili peppers were the spice, I would say. Delicious though, I loved it. As I mentioned in my first update, I really appreciated how Britta's fatness was discussed in the story. It never really impacted her confidence. It never impacted who she was as an individual. There was a section where she started to doubt, where she made unhealthy decisions. I loved the self-reflection that came off of that situation. The fact that she realized for her, a lot of her insecurities around her body come from the desirability she feels, which of course also showcased how absolutely wonderful Wes was and why they worked so well together, because that was never a concern through his eyes. He was always interested in Britta because of who she was, and especially at the epilogue, I think it just made me love them all the more with this one throwaway line that could showcase that. Naturally, there is a 3rd act breakup, which of course, you know, they're never fun. But with this situation, the setup of the book itself, yeah, you see it coming. You know exactly what it's gonna be. However, I will say I really enjoyed how it played out. I really liked the turnaround that was given to the characters at the end of the book because of that conflict. I especially loved the grand gesture moment we saw. It was so freaking good across the board. Like, I have nothing negative to say about this book at all. It was fantastic. I loved it. 5 stars. 5 glowing stars. I highly recommend this one. It was phenomenal. We're 2 for 2, baby! So satisfying. And I have very high hopes for this next one, How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. This is actually going to be rounding out Anita Kelly's Love and Other Disasters series, in which we are following Julie, who is a high school basketball coach and recently had a new girl pushed onto her team. She's a little confused as to why until she meets Vanessa's foster parent, Elle, who was a big name in the women's basketball world a few years prior. Initially, Julie is absolutely starstruck, but once she gets over herself, she ends up propositioning Elle to be her assistant coach, and things grow from there. I did actually have an arc of this one from NetGalley, so thank you to them as well as Anita Kelly and the publisher. Hey beautiful people, I have hit the halfway point into How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly, and once again I am reminded that Anita Kelly excels in creating characters. Already I feel like Elle and Julie hop off the page. They are so well created. Julie is really struggling with finding herself even though she's in her 20s. She has a job but she doesn't really love it, enjoys doing this basketball thing but she's not really sure if that's what she wants to do full time. She doesn't have a real relationship. She's never had a real relationship, and in fact she's not even really sure what to label her sexuality as. On the opposite side, Elle has had her life pretty well figured out by now, but things kind of take a turn whenever she ends up becoming a foster parent for her cousin. And now she is starting to realize that she needs to reprioritize things in her everyday life. Julie is really outgoing and peppy. She is so stinking cute. While on the opposite side, Elle is a bit more reserved, but she's very kind and really caring. You can tell she loves someone so fiercely, but she also has this very complicated relationship with her past.
And that is something that makes the dynamic between these characters so much fun. It does sort of feel like a celebrity romance because Elle was a big name basketball star, but you know, that's kind of a niche thing. Not everybody is going to know who she is, and she hasn't been in the league for many years now. So when they first meet, Julie absolutely fangirls over this, and she kind of still has that starstruck feeling in their first few interactions, but does eventually kind of push past it and realize Elle is just a normal person. It's also funny to see things through Elle's perspective because she's so flattered by this, but she's been so separated from that life for quite some time that she also just doesn't quite know what to do and how to react. From the get-go, each of them are insanely attracted to the other person, so I was a little hesitant that this was gonna start gearing into insta-lust territory, but I think Kelly has actually handled it quite well, where rather, these two are really becoming friends. They're becoming such good friends, and their relationship only continues to develop once Julie asks Elle to be her assistant coach, and with that is kind of where the workplace element comes into the story, though we do find out they apparently both work for Vanderbilt, just in very different areas of the college. But because of the nature in their job, there's not really a forbidden element to the romance in comparison to some of the other books I read for this video. And honestly, it's ironic that I was concerned about insta-lust because this has actually been pretty slow burn. They are only just barely starting to scrape the surface of them having feelings for one another. Only comes about because Julie has this emotional rant in which she is talking about the struggles she has in being so inexperienced when it comes to relationships. So Elle proposes that they try practice dating. Now, on one hand, I do think this could be very cute, very fun. On the other hand, some of my warning sensors are going off because this could definitely lean on the issues that I have with fake dating, and I don't want that. I'm very intrigued to see how that develops. Apart from the romance between those two, I love seeing the relationship between the main characters in the previous books. We see more of London and Daria. We also see more of Lex and Ben, which makes me so happy. London is siblings with Julie, and then Ben is best friends with Julie, so it makes sense that we're seeing a lot more of both of them. Along with those, I also like the plot that's coming on with Elle, specifically focusing on her role as a foster parent to her cousin Vanessa, and the very strained relationship she has with Vanessa's mom, Carly, who has lost custody because of an addiction issue. We see that everything in this is going through all the legal channels and they're trying to maintain a relationship, but it's also very hard because of the situation. Julie is also involved in that because she is trying to provide an outlet for Vanessa in basketball, but also help her to create connections with the team. I'm just really enjoying how that side plot is being included with the romance also. The basketball bits are not as strong as I was expecting, but it is always there, especially now that Elle is the assistant coach. Pretty across the board, I am really enjoying this book. I do just have a few things I'm a little nervous about going forward. So my estimated rating for right now is 4 stars, but I'm very hopeful that I will love this book.
Hey y'all, so I have finished out How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly, and in the end, I did enjoy this. It was very cute. Once more, applaud Kelly's character work. I really liked that each of these women seemed like they were dealing with very realistic issues in their lives, and I think that endeared me to them a lot more, but also I just loved seeing how the other person could be so much help to them. Elle helping Julie with her confidence and trying to figure out her sexuality, while Julie helps Elle in realizing she needs to be more open emotionally. I did mention in my last update that I was a little concerned that this was gonna have some similar issues that I tend to have with fake dating because of the practice relationship. Though there was still the questioning of, is this real, is this not, from both women at points. It never felt like it was overwritten. It didn't seem like those were really drawn out, thankfully, so I didn't mind it as much as I was expecting to. Rather, I was really impressed that the third act conflict is more wrapped around something in Elle's side plot and then her response to it and Julie's reaction to Elle's response. Both of their reactions felt very true to the characters that had been established, so I was convinced by them and not super angered that this was what the conflict was revolving around. But also, also, this is fairly slow burn. They still weren't even a couple by that point, so I was really thankful that the third act conflict was external and didn't cause them to break up after just getting together. Rather, their reuniting at the end allowed them to finally become a couple, and so that was a bit of a shift on the usual romance plotline, and I really appreciated that. I also talked about my previous update that I adored seeing the characters from the previous 2 books in this series. But I actually think this started to become more of a hindrance than help in particular, like the last 20% of this book. It really felt like those characters just had too much page time. So we weren't really able to enjoy the relationship between Elle and Julie that was really finally starting to build up at the end. And because of that, it seemed like the resolution came up really quickly and just wasn't really explored as much as I was hoping, particularly seeing as how it tied into Elle's side story that I initially really enjoyed and wanted to see more from. So in the end, I did like this one. I unfortunately only gave it 4 stars though. It wasn't a new favorite like Something Wild and Wonderful, but a satisfying ending to a romance series.
I rode too close to the sun, y'all. I got too excited. Well, hopefully we might find another 5 in these next few. Next up is The Build-Up by Tati Richardson, which is a little closer to the traditional workplace romance setup. We are following 𝗖cie, who is an architect that recently started at this new firm and almost immediately is attracted to Porter. But unfortunately for her, the 2 of them end up being paired together to work as a team and win this bid for a soccer arena that is being built in the city. However, the more time they spend together, the more that attraction builds, and I am really excited for it.
Hey y'all, so I've hit the halfway point into The Build-Up by Tati Richardson, and this started off so strong. I really love that we have dual perspective, but not only that, on the audiobook there are dual narrators, which is always a giant plus for me. Plus the female main character, 𝗖cie, she is plus size, she's over 40, and she's still confident as hell in herself, and I love that about her. That immediately made me enjoy her more. But also she's super funny. I really love her comments. On the opposite side, we have our male main character, Porter, who is really charming and very kind. He never has a bad thing to say about 𝗖cie ever. He literally is just a ray of sunshine for her, and it is so sweet. I will admit, I do think he comes across as one of those like a little too perfect to be true sort of male main characters that is very clearly written by a woman. That's a huge complaint from me. I do think the 2 of them have a fantastic chemistry. There is some tension fairly quickly between them, seeing as how they're each equally attracted to the other person. But at the same time, they both know that nothing should happen here. 𝗖cie has previously been burned by having a relationship with a coworker, while on the opposite side, Porter is actively competing to become a partner at this architectural firm. And also, you know, 𝗖cie's a relatively new hire, so he doesn't want to utilize his position of authority, and she doesn't want the opportunity to lose her job. With that being said though, I don't feel like the forbidden element has really been utilized as much as it could. I liked the little bit of tension we saw between these 2, but I want more. Just at the halfway point, we have our first sexy scene. While it was nice and spicy, I was all over it, I will admit it feels like it was a bit rushed to already have that happening when they still sort of have hang-ups on actively becoming a couple. They acknowledge the fact that they're attracted to one another, but they also acknowledge the fact that there are multiple reasons this shouldn't happen. I want more longing. I want more, you know, little intentional touches when they're in the office. Feels like we sort of jumped the gun in that regard. This also very much feels like a romance alone book because there's not really any side plots to either character. I suppose you could argue that yes, they are working together to try and create this stadium for their company, and then they're competing with like the office douche for this project. But even that really isn't being utilized to the full potential to argue that it's an actual side plot. I'm liking this, and for right now I would probably estimate my rating to be 3.5 stars, but I do have hopes that it will go higher than that because it had such a strong start, and I do really like both of the main characters together. Here's hoping that we'll only be going up.
Hey guys, so I officially finished out The Build-Up by Tati Richardson. And unfortunately this did not go the way I was initially expecting. Like I said in my last update, I was wanting a little bit more longing. I was wanting some slower burn between these 2 when it came to their relationship, but really after the halfway point they become friends with benefits. And then it is this constant back and forth of will they or won't they. It just felt incredibly dragged out. like I discussed previously with the setup, there is reasons why they should not be together. And Ari's biggest hangup is because she's concerned about their relationship being a conflict for their jobs and then that impacting her reputation as an architect. But then she initially okays them sleeping together. And like, these two are not subtle in how they act around one another in the office. I totally get the conflict of interest thing and the concern for her reputation if it was found out they were dating, but I don't think a reaction from her bosses would be very different whether it's them dating or them just sleeping together. And that perfectly illustrates an issue I had with the latter half of this book, in that logic was constantly being ignored. As I mentioned, they're not subtle when they are in the office. They act like a couple all the time, and yet they're shocked when people pick up on this romantic vibe between the two of them. 𝗖cie is constantly making excuses, being like, oh, this is okay, that's what friends do, that's not weird, except they're literally doing everything that a couple would be doing. They're dating in everything but name. It was just getting ridiculous. I do still say this is fully romance forward. There were sort of some side plots, particularly around their architect job and the stadium that they're trying to compete for. That element did sort of ramp up in the latter half, specifically looking at Ari's reputation and the drama from her past job and her previous relationship. I will admit, I was a little surprised that played as big a role in the second half of this book as it did, and I also was quite pleased with how that whole scenario was resolved. Even so, I did still have an issue, which came about because once 𝗖cie realizes that this is a problem, she just shuts down. She does not talk to Porter about it, and by that point, they actually admitted they are dating. It was so frustrating. Once again, logic. Who is she? Oh, I also guessed there was like sort of another side plot revolving around Porter's brother being an alcoholic, but that just felt really half-baked and kind of slid in there for no real reason. I do think the ending was cute, and I'm not going to complain about the pregnancy and the epilogue, seeing as how it talked about fertility issues that come on because of age, and I did appreciate that, was not expecting it. I did not like the second half of this nearly as much as I was hoping to, so unfortunately, my final rating for this came out to 3 stars. I am bummed. Well, that was a letdown. Yikes. Okay, hopefully this last one will end us on a positive note. You Had Me at Hola by Alexis, Daria. In this one, the workplace is actually the set of a TV show. Unfortunately for Jasmine, she has just recently been dumped by her rock star boyfriend and is determined to not let that outshine her new job as a leading lady. So she makes this list of things that only a leading lady does, and she is determined to stick to it. Unfortunately, though, that gets a little bit more difficult when she meets the hero character, Ashton. He has been a telenovela star for many years, but is scared that his star is slowly starting to burn out. He's hoping this is his opportunity to really take off with the American audiences, but things are a little awkward between these two. When they try and work in more practice, they also get a little bit closer. Hey y'all, so I've hit the halfway point into You Had Me at Hola, and for a book that I've really only heard mid things about, I'm actually enjoying this more than I was expecting to. Really like the discussions around representation in Hollywood, seeing as how both of our main characters come from a Latin background, and I also like seeing how each of their ethnicities impacts their identities. I really would love to see more of those elements in particular. Both of our main characters were previously soap opera stars. They are both doing the most at all times. So we have our female main character, Jasmine. She ends up making this list of things only a leading lady does and is trying to direct her life based on this list. The idea behind it, where she really needs to focus on herself and her career, do some soul searching, I actually really enjoy, and I wish that was being utilized more just as a way to allow Jasmine to grow as a character, but rather it's already starting to more be used as a roadblock for a real relationship, and that's just annoying. Then on the other side with Ashton, from our first interaction where he accidentally spills coffee all over Jasmine, you can see this man is awkward and anxious. He is not particularly comfortable with his fame. I really love the little bits we've seen about his family, particularly his interactions with his son. I found those incredibly adorable. And without getting into too many specifics, I do also like the explanation as to why he has such clear boundaries between his personal life and his work life. I think it makes perfect sense, and it also really fits with the setting of the story being about 2 celebrities. These two together, though, are awkward as hell. They're the leading couple for the TV show they're filming. They need to spend a lot of time together. They need to have chemistry. But each of them have their own personal hangups that they keep allowing to cloud their judgment of the other person, and it's just so frustrating. It feels like these grown adults can't just talk to one another like they're an actual human being. Add to that, there's this instant attraction between them. But I do think having actual chapters that are the scenes they're filming for the show has kind of allowed us to see more of the actual chemistry between them and sort of start to see the camaraderie that's growing between them. That said, I'm still not super swooning over the romance, if I'm being completely honest. I would be more comfortable saying they were becoming better friends at this point if it weren't for the fact that they sleep together just at the halfway point. Once again, I feel like the author sort of jumped the gun on that. I think she really should have taken more time in developing a relationship between them, allowing them to become friends before diving into a romance. So basically right now, I like both of the characters and I think there's some real potential for a great romance here. I'm just not really sure if it's going to reach that, unfortunately. I am nervous to continue in this one. So right now I would put my estimated rating at 3 stars. I am still liking this, and I am liking it more than I thought I would. I don't know how hopeful I am that my final rating will be incredibly positive. So hey y'all, I officially finished out You Had Me at Hola, and unfortunately I am disappointed to say that the potential I saw here did not go anywhere, and I'm bummed. One of the main things from this book at the beginning that I really liked was Jasmine's choice to try and stick to this leading lady thing. The initial idea for it is a little ridiculous, but I liked that she was trying to be more independent. She was trying to really focus on growing herself. Really wish that had been focused on a lot more in the beginning half of the book. After they break up, she then uses it as an excuse for why she and Ashton can't talk about their issues, because she needs to be the leading lady. She needs to focus on herself. But you've already gone all in on this relationship, girl. Like, just talk. Just talk. Is that so hard? And unfortunately, by the end of the book, I don't really feel like Jasmine grew at all. I don't think she would be able to be happy by herself because she's still so invested in relationships and what those do for her. If anything, she had just sort of reinforced that she was a serial monogamist and she required external validation from a man because her parents didn't praise her enough. And that's something that's acknowledged within the book, but not talked about in depth. And I really am bummed by that because I think it was necessary to add some layers to Jasmine's character. On the opposite side, with Ashton's issues, I'm gonna try to be as unspecific as possible due to spoilers. I understood why he did everything he did in this book, but I also could perfectly see why his actions were going to turn into an issue later on, and that's exactly what they did. Then both of their reactions to the problem is just them talking in circles. They don't actually communicate. They just blame the other person for the problems that have popped up. Their relationship blows up so fast, it's almost comical. And like I was saying in the beginning, I was a little concerned because they were both so instantly attracted to each other. And I had a right to be because they burn so hot and fast that it's not surprising this implodes really quickly. Across the board, the pacing of their relationship just felt way too fast, especially given the issues these characters are supposed to have. They're acknowledging should keep them from being a couple. They get together before the halfway point. They break up before the third act conflict even really takes place. And yet that conflict is the focus for like the last 150 pages of the book, so it just felt so wonky in terms of pacing. Then because of that, both of them do an exceptional amount of self-reflection so fast in order for them to then have the grand gesture and get back together by the end. It just, like, it felt so inauthentic. Like I mentioned in my last update, at the beginning of this book, I was pleasantly surprised at how things started out, but now I get why this has only had mid ratings, because unfortunately, I too only gave it 3 stars. So that's a big shame, but at least I found 2 books that were 5 stars, so I am gonna be happy about that. If you guys have any ideas for other workplace romances that you love, please leave them in the comments down below, as well as leave me comments for any other romance tropes you would like to see next year. All right, y'all, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for going to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as if you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a pink heart emoji in the comments. I have links to all my socials in the description if you're interested in keeping up with what I am reading, and I also come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!